David Campbell.
She still got it, folks. She just sang. Tammy just sang.
That wasn't really my singing voice. I'm like, give me a bouncy C.
I like the C.
Yeah, bouncy C.
Like a more chanteuse sort of thing. I think as you get older.
Yeah,
Like a flower in your hair. You're doing a night, like a night.
Just a nightie?
Like a 60s sort of vibe. You know, you got a boa and like long sleeve. See? There you go. I think that'd be cool.
I don't think people know this, but we've known each other for so long.
Like decades. We're talking
Like decades. Like
early noughts.
Two decades
Yeah.
in, we had the same manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
No, we did have the same manager. It was that he seemed to be managing everybody.
Yeah.
It was like
You're not managed by him now.
Yeah, no. But we were stuck in a vortex at that time.
We were.
Everyone just to be managed by the same company.
And that was
because you were doing music.
And that's when you were starting your career, like your music career, like 2.5 decades ago. I mean, you were still in it, but like you were like blowing up at that moment.
That's right. I've been going for like 10 years before that.
But that was when you were getting.
And then I was an overnight sensation.
And then I was like, how did he do it? How does he do it?
Where did he come from?
Yeah.
And how come he's got all these skills? No, I did overnight sensation stuff in the 2000s.
Yeah. But my mom told me last night that
What's your mum's name?
Julie. That she remembers you got up for our business class ticket. Do you remember
I go,
that?
what?
So apparently, I don't know, my mom seems to, and I love you, Mom, she seems to embellish a little bit, but she's like, David Campbell, we were all at the airport. She talks like that. And she said, and two people got upgraded, and it was him and like someone else, and we didn't get upgraded, and we passed him and we waved at him. Do you remember that story?
Look, sure.
You're like, no, I don't, because you were the peons in the back while I was in first class.
I actually probably had my sunglasses on. I was being served champagne at the time. No, I'd like to publicly, actually, that's why I've come here, is to apologise to your mother for that rude upgrade, which I had nothing to do with.
Do people upgrade you now, or do you just always fly first class?
No, I've never flown first.
Okay, well, business is
There
like
is no first class.
Yeah.
I sometimes fly business, but I use points because if you fly a lot, you can then.
Yeah.
But I never get bumped up. So usually, I'm only ever flying local. So usually I just fly coach like everyone else.
You do really?
Yeah.
It's funny, I posted on my Instagram I was flying coach, and people were shocked. They were like, I can't believe you're flying coach. And it's this weird, like, thought that because we're in the public eye in some way, or like quote unquote celebrities, that you always fly first. But I think it's just a waste of money. I
think it's a waste of money too.
Yeah.
And if I'm ever in business, someone has paid for that ticket that's not me.
Okay.
You know, or I've upgraded on points. But I flew my kids to Japan and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And we just did economy there. But then when I flew them overseas, we did premium economy, which is for a family really affordable. But for kids, they think it's business class.
Right.
And you get enough of a lean back with a neck pillow to sleep.
See, I don't love premium economy because you can't pull up the armrests, and then you can't sleep all over each other. Oh. You know what I mean? That sleep all over each other is just me sleeping.
Yeah.
On my children.
No, see, I don't want to be any. I've got some travel sickness in my family, so.
Do you have travel sickness?
I don't. One of my kids is a travel sickness kid,
Yeah,
and I keep forgetting, and then we'll be
vomit.
traveling, and he'll look at me and go, "Dad," I'm like, "Oh God, no!" And it'll just go everywhere. Mm-hmm. And on one flight, you know, we think now that the service industry is so incredible, and they've been through a lot with COVID, but now they're like, "Here's some stuff to clean up that child's vomit." I'm like, "Yeah." This is like being at home, isn't it? But I'm flying over the Indian Ocean.
Oh, yeah. No, there's been so much vomit in my life that I just almost assume that someone is going to be thrown up on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's only my husband throwing up on me. No, just kidding. He gets really sick, too. And I look at him and I'm like, don't you dare, because adult vomit is so much worse.
I don't care. Vomit doesn't bother me at all. My wife I've always been the sort of, like, she's gotten much better. Lisa's gotten much better, but I've always been the vomit cleaner because I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But that's because I had, heavy alcohol issues. So, like, I've seen people vomit since I was a teenager.
You're just like, it's just like a day in the life.
That's just what we do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna start from now. No,
okay.
we're gonna delete all of the vomit talk. No. Firstly, thank you so much for coming.
I missed out on the first season,
you.
so I really owed you.
I admire you. I have known you for so long, and I'm like, I want to get to like the heart and soul of who David Campbell is.
All right.
And I want to uncover some cobwebs and just get in there. You look very scared.
No, I'm gonna get comfortable here. If we're gonna do cobwebs, I'm gonna be comfortable.
You're gonna get really comfortable. Okay, can we take it back like way back to the beginning of your life. I suffer from anxiety. I suffer from a lot of mental health issues. And I look at you and you seem like you completely have it together. But your family life was, like, in the beginning, a really difficult one. We know that you didn't know that your dad, Jimmy Barnes, was your dad until you were 10 years old. I want to firstly start with the question of, like, how were you as a kid? Were you an anxious kid? Did you feel like, there's intuition that we have, especially we see our kids and we know that they know when something's up. Did you feel like something was different in your family when you were younger, from the ages of like 0 to 10? Because, like, did you notice that there was something that just didn't feel quite right?
Firstly, thanks for sharing, your story and a little bit about your anxiety, because I did have that. And you're so right when you say, did I know something was up? So I was raised by my grandmother in Adelaide, and I always knew at that stage that she was one of the older mothers at the school gate. And that always made me feel very vulnerable. I was an extremely needy child. I was extremely anxious, like you were. That's why we're in this industry.
Yeah, we loved it.
And when I found out about my dad, that wasn't too much of a shock. I would always known that he was part of the family, and I have a vague memory of him coming when I was much younger, around the very first Cultures album, with like a mop of hair and tight jeans, coming into like this flat I was living in Adelaide. And I was always, when he was on TV, it was like, oh, we know him. He's a friend of the family. So it was always that sort of attainability to him, this person on a tiny screen. But when I found out about him, it was the same day that I found out that my mother was the woman that I thought was my sister. And so the woman I thought my mother was my grandmother. And in a way, that first thing messed me up more.
Right.
And then when I became a teenager, and the realization and spending more time with my dad and realizing that he had another family that I was a part of, but then I'd had to go home because school was starting, that I was having my own teenage angst about that. So I really found it hard to find out who I was and what my sense of self was as a teenager. And I struggled with not knowing who to look for as a parent, because by that stage I'd engaged with my actual birth mother, and that was tough for my grandmother, because then she had to do a process of letting go of me. It just was so nuanced. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking about it with a friend of mine he was going home to see his family, and we were talking about reconnecting. And when I was told this, I don't think I've actually said this to anyone, so this is the first. I remember my Adelaide family, bless them, this is the 80s. There was no therapy.
Right.
They sat me down. So I'd just been told, here's a man who's a rock and roll star who you've never really met, but here's your dad, and that's his new wife, and they want to be a part of us, and they also have a daughter, my sister Mahalia, and she was a toddler. Okay. And they said, and this is the woman you thought was your sister, she's your mother, and I'm your grandmother. And now all these people that you thought were brothers and sisters are aunts and uncles, and I was 10. And bless their hearts, they turned to me and they were like, so what do you want to call us now?
Oh my gosh.
Tam and I was 10.
I have a 10-year-old.
Right? Imagine saying to them, I'm going to restructure the whole family. What would you like to do? That's just too much. And so the trauma was too real. And I said, I don't want anyone to change. Everyone stays the same. You can be my mum. You can still be my sister I just made all the worst decisions and nobody guided me.
Right.
And so that was probably, in retrospect, not great. But they didn't know better, and I don't hold it against them. But it did cause trauma, and it did cause major confusion and gaps in my life where I see it exacerbated anxiety, which I also know now is to do with ADHD, but anxiety with a neediness, a desire to people please, a desire to make sure that everyone's okay all the time, because this is my fault. I've caused this trauma. I did this. And I mean, obviously, with lots of therapy and thousands of couches I've sat on telling about this story, I know it's not, but I didn't then. And what that did, the long-term damage that, and also my own undiagnosed ADHD and stuff caused, was really interesting from when I'm looking back on it now as a 51-year-old to go, oh, I see where the mistakes were in my career or personal relationships now. And I can see why.
When I look at all the moments that has given me trauma, I understand what you say about the therapy has helped. But the pain is still very real. And I do believe I've given myself grace to go, I'm better, but it still sometimes hurts. And it still sometimes sucks, and it's still sometimes there. And I found that it really came out, all my stuff, when I had kids. So do you find yourself reparenting yourself all the time? Because like you didn't really have any pillars of anyone to look up to.
No.
You know, when you were young.
The father figure in my life was never around that much. And when he was around, it was such an incredible whirling dervish of like energy and flights and concerts. And you'd be like in this 7, 8, 9, 10
Makes you
day,
high, all this dopamine, right?
Oh my God. And then I was plonked down back in suburban Adelaide and going like, what happened? Where am I? Where'd they all go? But not wanting to hurt the people that were still there because I love them too. So when I look at my kids, you know, and I'm about to receive an award with my dad about parenthood and about fatherhood and share that with him. And it's because of the lessons that I see him with his kids, that I see him own his mistakes and also own what he's getting better at and the mistakes that he had growing up that he's trying to counteract and fix. And I'm trying to do the same thing. But it's constant. It's every day. And I'm always learning a new thing, like how to listen to a child. Like I'll speak to someone amazing like, you know, Maggie Dent and be like, she'll talk to me about a teenager and I'll just store it and hopefully it'll come out at the right moment with my teenager. Or how now when the kids get older, and you know this, as they get older, you can't just tell them to go to bed. You have to negotiate to go to bed. There has to be different levels to it. But then getting out of your own self, and there are things that I was taught as a child, levels of coldness or levels of compartmentalization or levels of anxiety, that sometimes it rears up. Therapied 51-year-old, totally fine.
Right.
Love my life.
Right.
You know, but going, get that out the way before I have this conversation. I just got to stop right here or I'll go away and come back.
It's those coping mechanisms that I didn't realize that. So I disassociate a lot. And sometimes like I don't even know, like I'll be like, oh wait, I was having a conversation like this. No, just kidding. I'm not this entire conversation has been disassociation. No. So when I feel like I'm in threat a lot. And so I'll disassociate.
So you have a fight or flight sort of.
All the time. And when I can't run, I'll like check out. I actually get more paralyzed and check out more than I do like run or scream at anyone. So I've noticed that because a lot of my work is also on social media, I find social media and the phone a way for me to cope. And I talked to my therapist about this and she's like, oh, because I just flick, right? I'm not actually thinking anything. It's just a way to disassociate.
You completely switch off.
It's all these coping mechanisms. Yeah. But you were so young at 10 and then, you know, obviously you're not drinking at 10. No. So what are you doing at 10 to cope with this fact that you just had this bomb like explode into your life? And how do you even know how to cope in that moment? Did you struggle at school? Did you get angry? Did you check out? Did you hide? Like how do you at 10 years old kind of keep going as like a young kid in society?
I probably, disassociate is probably a really good term for it. I definitely shut down a lot of those feelings. I think my wanting to keep everything the same was a coping mechanism. Like, please don't everyone change and leave me. I'm already feeling vulnerable.
Because everyone just changed.
Everyone literally in an afternoon changed. Please don't leave me and please don't make me feel isolated. I'll do whatever it takes to make you guys happy. So by doing that, I sort of, not necessarily checked out, but I pushed it down the road a little bit. So by the time I did become a teenager and I was sneaking out to bars and getting drunk and behaving badly and growing my hair out because it was the 80s and behaving badly at school and flopping and, you know, doing terrible, like it just was like becoming a terrible student. That's when it was coming out. And I didn't know why, because also I didn't have the ability. Like, there's no brain function as a teenage boy.
You have a monkey brain.
I have a monkey. It's the lizard has come forward. It's all
there's
testosterone.
No frontal lobe has not been fully developed.
And you're just sitting there just absolutely on instinct. And when I look at it now, I know that it's to do with the fact that I had trouble studying and concentrating because I was bright, but I could not function and have the executive function to do maths properly.
Right.
You know, and so then I felt imposter syndrome, inferiority complex, and that's when show business opened its arms to me
And said, come here and lose your soul.
come and join us under this little...
Come and make all your problems, turn your pain into purpose, but you don't really have purpose. You'll just have more pain.
You'll delay it for another 20, 30 years. Come under this big top.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of did, and I wish that I lived in a time where there was more therapy, where someone could come in and say, this is what you need to do, because it would have caused a lot less pain moving forward into my 20s and 30s. But I definitely was so good at shutting things down. And that is what, going back to being a parent, that I don't want to do with my kids. I don't ever want to turn off the love. I don't ever want to switch off from them because that's what I did to cope. And I don't want to teach them that.
Did you find it hard to love your dad? Like to really love him in the beginning years? Because love is so confusing and so many different layers on that. But at 10, like forgiveness from me, when you can really forgive someone, then you can truly open up to love someone. But like when you're young, how do you even know how to fully, like, did you admire him? Did you love him? Was it a bit of both? Was it confusing? Did it take time?
It's a really interesting and important question that I need to sort of think about the answer for. But my dad, for whatever reasons that he is who he is one of the most incredibly lovable humans you'll ever meet. There is a charisma to him. There's a riz, as the kids would say, to him. And that's what makes him a star. But it's also what makes him an incredible empath and human.
Right.
Because of his trauma, because of his neediness to, his parents that were neglectful to him growing up. That's all in his book, and his incredible, like, terrible backstory. Because of that, that makes him really attractive.
Right.
So I never struggled loving him. I never struggled respecting who he was, because I just was like, he'd come off Chisel. The last Stand concert was when I first met him, and he went from that to becoming it was the biggest artist of all time in this country. What's not to love? That's my dad. The confusion was that I couldn't be a part of it. The resentment came because I had to hold myself back because I was scared. And because I didn't want the kids at school to know that he was my dad. Because what if they were like, well, why aren't you there? Why are you in this school in the middle of Adelaide, in working class suburbs, and not with a guy who's running around on jets in first class?
Yeah, right.
So therefore it became more about, I internalized it much more than projected it. I never, even at his worst times, and he's had some terrible times that he's, very well documented, it would be about removing myself from it rather than not loving him. And so it's more of an issue about how I deal with it than how that person is.
Of course, like, I give them so much love and so much attention, but I also work and I love my job. I'm not Jimmy Barnes at all. And I'm not at that level. I'm not at that level, but I always fear, like, I go and do a movie for 2 months and do they think, wait, why is mom not here? And that's my greatest fear, is to think that. So did you ever go, well, does he love his career more than me?
No, it wasn't about that. It was far needier than that. I did not have...
You're just like...
I mean, now I look at it and I think anyone who's at the level that he is at, or, there has to be a level of servicing the industry because he is an industry and there's a responsibility to being as great as he is. And I actually accept that and find that really admirable. But I know deep in his heart he's never done it to sacrifice any love for his kids. Yeah. He's actually done it to prove to his kids how good and what a great man he can be. I think he always leads with love. I think he also has led with trauma, but I think he leads with love. But for me, that's why I once I sort of got over, around the time when we were meeting, I was still trying to cope with where I stood in the industry that now I'm been accepted in. But he's at this level and I'm way down here. And I'm like, Like, this is
Right.
hard. This is, where do I fit and who am I? And that all of a sudden, all that stuff that I'd suppressed as a teenager came whooshing back again. And so trying to figure out who I was and find my own voice and my own identity was a deep struggle for a long time. And that, brought up how I cope with things and how I deal with things and, shutting down or drinking too much. And all those things played into it. So it was really it's always about how I was dealing with the trauma and the journey as opposed to what he did to me, because he didn't do anything to me.
Right. And it's actually such a testament on the two of you to see how close you are now.
Yeah.
And, there's this, it's hard for men, I think, to be super vulnerable, but the only way to really connect with someone and forgive them is through vulnerability and understanding and empathy. And I feel like maybe it's a little better now as men are like being able to show that part of them. But the fact that you two are as close as you are, you guys were standing not really naked, but naked souls. And
That would have been really weird.
That would have been really. You'd
That's
be like,
such a weird
Dad,
vibe.
please leave right now. But just your souls like bearing and just being able to have those conversations, and that's hard. That's
It's
like the
really
hard work.
And he did the hard work by doing the book and the tour,
Yeah.
And I saw him then do incredible work influencing a generation of men who I would sit in his shows sometimes where he was doing this sort of open book music concert. And I would sit in rows with guys who were much older than me. It's like, we got married to your dad. And they would talk to me really openly, and the wife was like, yeah, But then my dad would share all the stories of the abuse and the trauma that he had. And these grown men would cry. And I would lean forward at the end of the show, like, because I knew what was coming. I'd be like, are you okay, mate?
Yeah.
And they would be heaving tears. And this, I remember this one wife saying, like, he's never cried like this in front of me before. And so I see that my dad being vulnerable with his story was so important. And that led me to be, all right, I have to be more vulnerable with myself. I have to really strip this stuff
so
back.
hard.
So in many ways, he's always been, including with music and like I could get a career outside of Adelaide, he's always been this guiding light in a way to me. And so I always learn my lessons from him, whether they're conscious or not.
Yeah. Well, look at where you are now. From
That's
all of that.
been okay.
And you're on the morning show and
Yeah.
you're doing music. And are you happy now where you are in your life?
I've never been happier.
Wow.
I've never been happier because I feel like I'm not chasing what it is that I thought I needed to make me happy, which is what a lot of us in this industry do. We're trying to fill whatever that pain, trauma hole is in our heart. If we fill that with art and people like us, that'll make us happy.
Yeah.
And I think that when you actually go, no, I can support my kids, I can work, extremely stimulated by interviewing you or Harry Garside, who was on today, or someone who comes on and they are the local community leader who is changing lives wherever they are. The fact I get to ask those questions, share their stories and be a conduit for them is so rewarding. And I've just got back into touring again with my band in the last 18 months, and there's no album to promote.
Yeah.
There is no, like, I've got to promote this or that. I barely do any. We're just going out to RSLs.
Yeah.
And we're
You're doing it for
5, 6
enjoyment.
I'm loving it.
Isn't it weird
I'm
that
having
it's
such a good time.
It's so hard to actually the allowing for letting ourselves, especially as entertainment, like as entertainers or people who, like for me, I'm always like, oh, how do I make money doing this? Like, I don't want to just do it for fun.
Yeah.
And it's like allowing yourself to just have fun. There's so
It
much
reminds
power
us of why
in
we did it,
that.
why we escaped in the first place. Was like, this is fun.
Yeah.
It not only takes us away from whatever trauma, but actually putting that aside, arts is really fun. That's why I encourage my kids to do it, because hopefully, A, they don't have trauma, but also,
Right.
I love singing with Mahalia. She's my favorite person to sing
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
And so we go up on stage and tell daggy jokes and sing at each
Daggy, I
other.
love that word.
And we just have the best time.
Yeah.
And it's more fun than anything I could ever imagine in the last 20 or 30 years of singing. Just
Yeah.
hanging out with my sister on stage with a big band and cracking jokes and just selling songs.
But
so
why?
stupid.
Why do we not allow ourselves to have fun as we get older?
Well,
or are people just out there just like raw dog and having fun, like except
I hate to break to you, people are out there having fun.
they are.
They are. People are out there having
because I
fun.
don't drink either. So
Yeah.
wait, are they? I mean, I have more fun not drinking. But
Same.
so people just having fun, not drinking. Just
I don't know
out
about
there.
your level of drinking, but my level of drinking was like, I will drink until it's done.
Yeah.
Not like a couple of drinks and I feel great, let's hit the dance floor. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep drinking.
Right.
And so that's where it never became fun.
And it's been 10 years.
10 years sober, yeah.
Wow. So 41 is still older to make that decision.
Yeah.
Which is amazing that you made the decision, but you sat in that for a while. And that was that's hard. Or maybe you negotiated with yourself, like, I'm gonna not drink, and then it just happened. And then what was that day where you thought, okay, this is it? Like, do you know when it's your last drink?
I know exactly when my last drink was.
You knew it. Like, you were like, you made that decision.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've told the story before, so I'll keep it really brief. But and this is very name droppy. But Dan Aykroyd was in town.
Tell me about Dan Aykroyd. You name dropper.
He was promoting his Crystal Head vodka, and he was doing some Blues Brothers songs. And I got to sing with him as a blues brother on the stage. And they invited me to the launch, and so I sang with him at the launch. And I'd always loved, Ghostbusters, and my wife and I are very nerdy people, and we were both drinking. And he gave us Crystal Head vodka, and at the end of that week was my first real proper family holiday with my son Leo when he was 3, and we were going to Broome. And Lisa and I was like, Friday night, I'd finished the TV show in the morning, and Lisa's like, should we just watch Ghostbusters and have some Crystal Head vodka? I'm like, fantastic.
Yeah, we should.
We weren't even that drunk. And I had to wake up the next morning, get on the plane, and I got hit so hard. And I never remember, we were not drunk. We were not drinking hard. And it has nothing to do with the brand. I want to always say that.
Yes, Dan Aykroyd's your brand.
My body rejected the feeling, and I was sick, and I almost couldn't get on the plane. And I heard my son say, Dad's not well. At 3, Tammin.
Makes me want to cry. Yeah.
Tammin, he's that little guy.
Yeah.
I saw that. That was me. I grew up with people drinking. I grew up with the domestic violence that would come from that. I remember a fight at an engagement party that happened right in front of me, and then a woman screaming over the fence, and it just, the trauma that and the shaking I felt of that, and seeing family members, have car accidents because they're too drunk and nearly lose their lives, and just, it was real. And I don't know, it was that moment where I was like, heard him say that, and it was like a voice in my head just went, that's it.
Yeah.
So we landed in Broome. I made it. And we landed at beautiful Cable Beach. My wife and I were sitting there at lunch, and Leo's playing in the chair, and I sat there, and it was beautiful. We looked out, and Lisa looked at me, and I looked at her, and I said, I'm done. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, no more drinking. I'm out. I said, you can drink as much as you want. I'm not trying to say I'm trying to influence you, but I've had it. And I told her why, and she was like, no worries. And so she drank for a couple more weeks and was so bored. And
yeah, she's like, this is not. When I have a glass of wine and no one has it with me, it's not. Well,
it's not fun. And also, she had her own reasons to want to do that too. And so we both have been sober together for 10 years. And to do it together is really powerful, because we didn't actually need to keep ourselves in check, because both of us felt like, yeah, we're good. Like, I've never felt, touch wood, I've never gone, that was a terrible day, I wish I could have a drink.
Right.
I was so lucky to not be that much of an addict, or that. For me, it was about binge drinking. So there'd be, I remember in my 20s when I was in New York, never drinking.
Oh, yeah.
Just being so clean and about the art. And I'm in New York City, and never thinking about drinking. And then it sort of creeps in, and then it crept out again. And it just kept creeping in and got longer and worse and worse. So once it was over, it was like a relief. I was like, oh my God, it's the best.
It's amazing that you also, because I stopped drinking 2 years ago, and I honestly had 2. Like, I didn't even binge drink. But your body just goes, this is poison.
Yeah. Oh, it's poison.
And you don't think about, like, when you're in your 20s, you're like, no, because we've been sold this idea that it's medicinal and it's healthy and it helps with your arteries. And the Italians do it, but the Italians also have no chemicals in their food, and they walk 25,000 steps a day. Yeah. And their food is all like home cooked, and they're less stressed, and so maybe
they have a work-life balance.
Exactly. Yeah. They work to live.
Family's important.
Not live to work. To have community. I'm like, maybe that's what we should be focusing on. But it's like, it's the only drug that we kind of question somebody else why they're not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, if I was like, hey, I'm just going to do some heroin, and someone's like, and the other person was like, okay, I'll do it with you. Or like, oh, why are you not doing heroin with me?
Yeah.
Like, why are you not doing this drug with me? Why are you not smoking a joint? Why are you, but
that's
alcohol.
people projecting their own stuff, right? That's nothing to do with you.
No, I know
not doing
that.
heroin,
And
if
people
we're going to
now
stay
know.
on this.
I'll give you some later.
I can't wait for the Daily Mail headline of Tammin talking about
Tammin wants to do. I've actually never done heroin, guys.
Same, you guys. Can we do this for the record?
I've never actually done any drug because I'm afraid that I'll like it or die.
Yeah, it's really hard.
It's
when you live with family members who go through massive addiction,
right?
It is so scary. It's so scary.
And it could just take, you don't know, like my brain could be addicted to it. It could be so great. I remember once getting morphine. I got really sick and I was in the hospital. They gave me morphine and it was like this rush and I thought, this is amazing. Like, I so get it. And then I asked, and I was like, I wasn't in pain. And I was like, can I have some more? They gave me more and I just threw up everywhere. And I was like, this sucks.
I get sick on that stuff too.
Yeah.
I like had in the operation. First thing I do when I come out of an operation is want to be
Yeah.
really, really sick. It doesn't agree with me.
But I think I think 40 is, I just turned 40. So I think 40 is the age where your body's like, nope, we are rejecting anything that was always poison.
Yeah.
But now we're really telling you it's poison.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And you got to listen to that.
Right.
You know, and that's what I've done because I'm a vegan too. You know, I'm plant-based. I've been plant-based for 7 years. And because I wanted to listen to my body and really enjoy the rest of my life for my kids, you know.
Right.
And I never, people are like, oh, wait for the vegan to tell that they're vegan. But it's actually, I've actually started eating eggs again because of I've been doing a lot of weight training with Lisa.
It's hard to have the protein.
Yeah, and sometimes, when you travel, if I go to France, like we went to Paris with my kids.
You're going to eat a big old cow.
You're gonna eat a croissant. What am I not gonna have a croissant in Paris with my kids? Are you kidding?
Butter's a little different.
I'm not gonna have meat, but it's a little different. So I've learned how to sort of listen to my body more and just be more in tune with it, which sounds really frou-frou, but it's okay.
You're a little frou-frou.
I'm a little frou-frou.
That's okay.
Thanks so much for the note.
So nice. So we're gonna do the rest of the interview like this. I have a few more questions before we go. Are you afraid of getting older? In this business?
In the business?
Well,
I'm already old in this business.
Let's do a twofer. Yeah. Let's say in this business, although it's a little better for men.
Yeah, and I hate thinking that it is.
Like, you'll still always be a stud, and I'll be like a hag.
Stud? Can we start a podcast just the stud and the hag?
We're actually
as we get in 10 years' time, we'll come back around.
I'm actually going to redo the start of the podcast and go like, "Hey, stud,
hey,
welcome to the
what
show.
Up, girl?
Welcome to the show."
I don't think I've ever and will ever be a stud. No, but it makes me uncomfortable to think that men can just continue on and that the media and society think that that's okay, but yet women can't. So I'm glad to see that's changing.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. And I'd like it to change faster because I like my friends and I want them to work with me always. As I get, so that worries me a little bit, but I don't mind it. Like with doing roles and with theatre, I like, the challenge of doing things when you get older. I think that's cool. But the only thing about age is, I see my dad have gone through some things in the last few years, some operations and stuff. I'm like, ooh, I better make sure I'm preparing my body for my 60s and 70s so that just in case, I'm always looking to him for the answers. So in case, my body's the same as him and what if my hips don't work? I'm just trying to work on those things. So I'm not scared. I don't like getting old. No one does, but it's okay. I'm better now when I'm in my 50s.
Yeah, youth really is wasted on the young.
Oh, it's awesome.
Because I look back and I never thought I was cute, right? And then I look back.
You were so cute. Are you kidding?
But I never thought it.
All right. Well,
and every year that goes by, I never thought I was cute. And then I look back to the year before, and I was like, "I'm cute that year."
Why didn't I think that then?
Why didn't I get my tits out shirt on?
I know.
I thought my whole 20s, I should just have my boobs out. I should just have crop shorts.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I was like, "Oh no. I don't look good. I don't look good." And I think imagine you look like that, but you're old. Imagine Benjamin Button it. We should go.
Sure.
We should start older.
Yeah.
And then get younger because
But have the knowledge. As you're getting younger.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Because you make such bad mistakes when you're young.
Yeah, but your body can cope with it because it's so young. And it can just take all the hits.
Young.
Like that young liver. Oh, to get that back.
Get
just
that
delightful.
young back. Have you ever done anything talk about mistakes that you've done that you remember? It doesn't have to be heartfelt. It can also be funny. That you're like, oh, that was a blunder. Or like from
I
20
feel like when
to
you
40?
get to, listen, if you're survived in the industry as long as we have,
Yeah.
you make so many. Most of the time now, I look back on my mistakes as having to learn from what I am now. You know, I'm someone who has just been diagnosed with ADHD in the last 10, 12 months. It's been so helpful to me to go, oh, that's why I was having panic attacks in New York. That's why I would run away from things, because I couldn't cope. And the trauma that I experienced on top of that was just a perfect storm. And so as opposed to thinking I made a lot of mistakes, and I did make some mistakes, and there are some hair choices that my wife keeps on her phone just to sort of send to me sometimes. She goes, look at that long blonde mullet you had here. She goes, that was not
I
hot.
really like your wife.
Yeah, she's pretty funny. And so when she brings me back down to earth with that sort of stuff, that's when I think, that was a mistake. Or, you try something, you think, no, why did I try that? But for the most part, I think it's about learning from that stuff.
And when you're on air too, like you have to roll with the punches. I mean, must be things on air that are like chaos, like something's going wrong.
The best thing about doing live TV is that it's over. And I never watch it back. When you're doing a movie, if you're doing one of the TV shows or movies in America, you'll do a scene and then you might go over to the monitor and stuff like that, and you'll review it. And I never have to do that.
But don't you worry you're always going to get canceled? Like by something I guess you don't. I don't really have a filter. I would say.
No, you wouldn't.
I think I would.
No, you're really mindful and you're really sensible. No, you wouldn't. And
There'd be a fuck come out there.
I remember
somewhere.
when I took the TV show and it fell into my lap from God and Channel 9 and Sonia Kruger, who was like, I want you to do it with me. I was like, oh my God, okay, cool. And Lisa turns to me, she goes, just don't embarrass us. Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean by that? She goes, just don't say anything that's going to get you cancelled or embarrassing.
Yeah.
She goes, you could be embarrassing because you are. She goes, but just don't bring shame. I'm like, and that's always played in the back of my head. And it's true.
But Larry's still on and he's done some shameful things.
Listen, that dog show, he never lets it go.
Yeah.
Celebrity dog show. No, but Larry's a great example of that. You can be yourself and not mean.
Yeah.
You can be yourself and not a dick.
Yeah.
And if the joke's on you, it's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're kind to others, and we are a facility for people to come on and promote. And that's all we have to do is to make them look good.
Yeah.
And that can be hard work sometimes. Not everyone's a greater guest as you are.
Right.
But you just make it work.
Yeah. Who's your worst interview? Come on. We just won. She's going to say it. It's not going to be the head of Daily Mail.
No,
promise.
I won't say a name, but there was a comedian that came on rather early.
Right.
Who I always liked. It wasn't a massive comedy name. I always liked them. I thought, I can't wait to meet this person. They came on, and I was with a co-host who wasn't Sonia, because Sonia was doing Big Brother at the time. And this co-host said something just very innocent, like, maybe you should, it must be hard. You must have people saying, tell us a joke. But do you have anything like something funny?
Do you have a joke?
You kind of said that. And this person shut them down so much on air that I was like, you don't need to do that. That seems so mean. Are you this mean?
Right.
Oh, and I tend to not be angry about it. I tend to be like, you didn't have to do that. I want to help you, but now you've made that decision. So there's never really worsties. Everyone I meet, if you treat them and interview them from a level of like, I'm so interested in your story. Right. Like you've been with me and very kindly. If I'm so interested in your story, please tell me that. And if you don't want to, that's fine. People just tend to talk.
Yeah. I find comedians actually the hardest to interview.
So hard.
Like, so hard.
But I love them though.
I do love
those little dark hearts of theirs.
But it's always, there's a lot of stuff to get through. And I think that their coping mechanism is comedy.
Yeah.
And humor. And when they come on to do an interview, that's all gone.
Yeah.
And I think when you have an interview with someone that you find so hilarious, it's actually quite a shock to the system.
Yeah.
When they're
How serious they are.
Yeah. I actually haven't met one, well, that's not true, maybe one or two comedians out of probably, I'd say I've interviewed over the course of doing podcasts for about 7 years now. I would say I've interviewed like over 60. And I would say there was 2 that were brought it. Like, the rest just sat there.
Yeah, well, what I learned
like,
was, remember, like when we grew up, we were watching, Ray Martin laugh on the Midday Show all the time.
Yeah.
So our team at Today Extra, what we did to sort of adjust that, because we would constantly be getting comedians going, "Thank you so much. This is my book about my childhood. It's very, very funny. Please purchase it. I'll be on the road on these dates." To change that, we would reach out to them and be like, "Hey, what are your zingers at the moment? And I'll set you up Carson style. I'll set you up Dave Letterman style. So I'll feed it. So we don't have to do." You've done all that sort of like American TV where they have more people talk to you than when you do the interview itself.
Yeah, they talk to you before.
Right.
And they ask you all the questions.
So we just, with comedians, we're like, please give us your funny thing that you've got right now. And, I will, or Sylvia will set up the joke for you to knock it out of the park. And we will laugh heartily. Don't tell us what the punchline is. But that's the game.
That's the trigger of the game.
And that's the trigger. And so once we've done that,
God, it took me 7 years to get there.
It took us 5.
Yeah.
And most comedians, because I had some of my, like Jim Gaffigan, who I adore, and he came on the first time I interviewed him, and I was so earnest and stuff, and I'm like, that wasn't funny. That wasn't funny for him. That wasn't funny for me. That was just me fangirling over him. So after like a few of those that I really wanted to impress, I'm like, I don't need to impress them. I need to set them up. And that's the, I need to learn from, you go way back to Carson and Letterman and Leno. All they're doing is setting them up so that they can laugh.
And also there's a great book, 50 Laws of Power. And one of them is like, never outshine the master.
That's right.
So always let them shine.
Yeah. And that's the gift.
Yeah. I got to learn how to do that.
It's only taken us decades.
Just kidding.
Decades.
And before we go, we do 2 little things, 2 little segments. One is
Wait, I need to drink the shit show water with your face on it.
Look, this is a water, guys, if you are not watching. By the way,
Can
watch
you get
the
this
show.
in stores?
Watch the show on YouTube if you don't want to. You can listen to it. But this is the shit show water.
Shit show water.
Water. My accent's all over the place. People are very offended by it.
But you got kids. You got kids that are American. What are you
I
gonna
live
do?
half the time there and half the time here, and it's just all... But I was on a show that for 8 years where I was an American. So
you had to. When I was in America...
My tongue went the wrong way.
There are... One of the most embarrassing things, when I look back on it now, I was in America in the 90s. In the 90s. And it was interesting because I had an acting teacher, and it all happened very quickly for me over there in theatre in Broadway. And I was doing a lot of auditions. And every audition I go to, and you would know this when you first went over, it's like...
Yeah.
Well, we think we can hear a little accent. I think they can hear the Australian accent. No, that's not a good Southern accent because I can hear Australian.
Yeah.
No matter how good your dialect coach was. So back in those days, they were like,
go in
and practice in the real world.
Yep.
So there are probably interviews somewhere, please don't find them, of me speaking to Australian media with a full Bronx accent. Because I'm doing a role or I'm practicing for a role.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like this all the time. And it's like, because I thought that was what I had to... People pleaser. That's what I had to do. This is pre-Russell coming and going, oh, buddy, g'day, mate, you fucking bunch of
I
pricks.
still feel like you have to do it. I still feel like casting directors
is that
are
a real thing?
It. I, on purpose, tried to lose it because I was on a TV show and they were going to fire me because my accent kept coming out. So I just spoke in an American accent, which felt weird for quite a while, actually, for at least 3 months. But at some point, it kind of stuck because it really is where your tongue is. Either your tongue, this sounds, I know, in the front, the middle, or the back. That's what she said. No.
We're talking about placement here, kids. Placement.
Placement. And the American is in the middle, and
it's in the middle, right at the front.
Yeah,
they sit in their residences and they allow the words and they allow the mouth to do the work.
Yeah. So once you move your tongue placement, it's like you kind of end up speaking in an accent. But it's been really helpful because all the movies that I've done in America, I don't have to think about it.
There you go.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not. It's like another thing that I have to do the words.
And
what's your intention?
You're a mother. You don't need to think about anything else.
I just need to.
You don't need to think about anything.
Go to work.
You're forgiven. But I'm mortified that stuff could be.
Do your accent one more time.
I don't know how good I am anymore.
It's really good.
Hey Tam, it's good to see you. How you doing?
I can't do New York. How you doing?
How you doing? You all right?
How you doing?
The show you first. No,
I'm
just doing Sopranos. That's bullshit.
It's okay. I can't do Russian. Or New York.
Please, Russian. So easy for you. You actually look like Russian pride.
Russian.
I'm Russian. Let's just piss off the main powers of the world.
Russian.
What we'll do is we'll piss off the 2 main powers of the world.
Yes, exactly.
Of this little podcast.
Russian.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I can't really do it. They never cast me in a Russian.
Placebo.
It's okay. Before we go.
Yes, there was another question. Go.
So I need your 2 favorite Australian slang words because when I come back and forth, there's always new ones. Someone said, "Don't fuck a spider." I was like, "What?"
We're
is
not here to
that?
fuck spiders. That's a
Oh, is that? Do you want to hear to fuck
Yeah,
spiders?
we're not here to fuck spiders.
And
mate.
you say
Let's go.
that?
Yeah, I say that. Not to my kids, but I'll say, come on.
You're like, "Hey, kids, we're not here to fuck spiders."
No, well, that's a real come on, do the work because we're not here to fuck spiders. We're here to do what we're supposed to do.
Okay.
I for some reason, and I don't know what it means. Get a dog up here, and I don't know what that means. And I think
Get a dog up.
do you know what I mean? Just get a dog up here, mate. And I'm like,
there's nothing.
that
The problem with
mean?
Australian slang is it really doesn't make much sense.
I don't know what that means.
So you use it though.
I don't use it, but I like it.
But use in a sentence.
What do I use in a sentence? I can't. Because it's often like
how would you say to me "Hey, Tammin"?
I don't want to look in there and say it.
Just look at me deeply in the eye.
Tammin, good to see you, mate. Get a dog up here. And then I'm off. No, I don't know what the context is, but I know it's said.
But it
in
sounds
this
like
world.
put a golf club up your butt.
Yeah, but it's not. It's a
But a
dog.
dog.
And is the dog alive? Anyway, I've got so many questions.
okay.
And what dog?
Okay.
What breed?
It has to
so
be
I like
small.
that one.
It has to be like a miniature.
I think you got to start small.
something.
You got to start small.
You got to work your way up.
You're not working your way up to
You
a
gotta
pit
work.
bull.
You're just not.
You're
no,
not great
pit bulls are
dating
not
that
going
thing.
nowhere up
No,
me.
absolutely
no,
not.
not
Okay,
happening.
well, this is another podcast again.
I do love my dogs. Love you, Sadie.
That one I like. There was a TikToker just this week was saying, so could we say the olds? We say the oldies. We're just going with the olds. I like saying, because I call my dad, the old man.
But
and stuff like
what
that.
age starts the olds?
It's over 40. The olds.
When you can do, I'm about to do Prevention magazine. When you can do prevention.
Yeah.
And you can say it.
Yeah, the olds magazine.
The olds.
Yeah. Are you in that magazine for the olds? You're still going to get the cover, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I better, because if I'm at the back.
We can always cut this.
If I'm at the back and I'm still in the magazine, I'll be upset.
Yeah, he said it. I didn't say it. I parroted him.
Yeah. The olds. The olds.
The olds.
Okay. Well, I feel like you only get two, but yours are so good that I need one more now.
You want one more? Look, I like she'll be apples.
What?
She'll be right and she'll be apples. She'll be apples, mate.
It doesn't make sense.
I don't know what apples are good. They
Do
keep the doctor
you say
away.
it though?
No, I often, you know what I do? I like calling people. I don't use she'll be apples. I don't, because I'm married to a British woman, so I don't really use much Australian slang.
Yeah.
It's
Do
like
you use
being
her
married to
slang?
the Queen.
Yeah.
You know,
She's like, no, that's not
very
good.
apologetic. And,
Oh no, you can't
don't
say
make
that.
a scene.
Don't say that.
Campbell, don't make a scene. No. So I don't really say. I like calling old guys. The diggers that used to be in the war.
Yeah.
Like, g'day, digger. I remember a guy used to say
Yeah.
it to me, like an older man used to say it to me when I was a kid. I like that, but not many people like that anymore. And if you don't pronounce it right, you are cancelled.
Digger.
Yeah. So it's really tough. It's a tough word. So it's probably, and it's,
Yeah.
the last of the diggers are starting to die out now, so that's probably not.
No, you
really
can't
great.
say
It's
it.
probably not great. So, and it's probably not respectful to that generation. So
you're cancelled.
Yeah. So I don't know why that guy said it to me when I was 10, but he did.
Yeah.
So look, I'm just a big g'day, happy sort of guy.
It's okay, mate.
Yeah.
Throw shrimp on the barbie. Have you ever said that?
I've never said that.
I know, but everyone when they say, "You're Australian," go throw shrimp on the barbie.
How about our Fosters?
Do you know my friend? Do you know my friend Marcus? He's from Australia.
Oh yeah, Marcus.
I'm like, there's millions of people here, like 30 million of
I know,
them.
but America, they're like, there's dozens of people there. Do you know Johnny?
do you know Johnny and Marcus? They're from Australia.
Yeah, they're from the coast. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. From the
Oh,
coast.
you live near the coast?
Yeah.
The water where the beaches are.
Yeah. Why are the Americans speaking to you in a more Australian accent than you have?
Oh my God.
Why?
You're
Why?
right. What?
Your accent's jumping now.
The Russians.
The Russian. You please,
Russians.
do you know Sergey?
The Russians.
He lived Victoria.
Okay, I don't even know if we want to do the last segment because we should end on this. But really quickly, what's your biggest shit show moment?
Shit show moment.
Yes.
Oh man, I've been trying to think about this. I think I have it like.
Was it the show?
Okay, I'm going to tell you, right? I was once asked by the Australian Labor Party.
This is good.
What a sentence. What a sentence to sing at one of their events. I'm like, okay, cool. And the song was going to be Forgotten Years, the great Midnight Oil song. These will not be forgotten years, the hardest years. Right, cool. Big Oils fan, no problem. And this is like pre-TV. I was like still trying. This was like 18 years ago. And I got that it was going to be a symphonic version. It was going to be an orchestra. great. Cool. I love orchestras.
For the
Good to
Labour
play with.
Party.
For the Labour Party. It was in the middle of the day. In the room that they darkened to make look like it was nighttime. And I go out and there was all these lights and the lights weren't positioned properly. And ladies and gentlemen, here to sing Forgotten Years is David Campbell. And you can see they're all eating and stuff like that. And all the ex-PMs are out there. And I walked out and the only light that was not focused properly was on Peter Garrett's head. And I go out there and the orchestra started and the conductor, a friend of mine, George, did that and he looked at me and I went, I don't know the first line. I don't know the first line of the song. And he was like, I don't know, the hardest. Thank you so much. And I absolutely botched it. I have never been worse on stage than I was.
Just anxiety?
Because once you, as you know,
once you're panicked, you're panicked.
once you panic and it hits it, and
you've forgotten everything.
And if you're on stage, you're already heightened.
Yeah.
So the
lights.
dopamine and the adrenaline hits, and that exacerbates it by 1,000. And I was at a flop sweat, and I could not remember any of the words. I don't think I hit any of the high notes properly. It is a blur. My mouth dried up.
Oh my gosh,
my
I
skin
know.
and shirt was soaking wet. And I had to stand next to him and George, this conductor, and every once in a while he would say the word that I had to say next, and I would sing it. And it was for real a shit show.
Yeah.
And they have never asked me back.
I wonder why.
And I've not met Peter, one of my dad's friends, and I've not met Peter directly, and I've never spoken to him about that moment either. Never made eye contact with him.
Yeah.
I have just been deeply mortified.
You know what?
It was a shit show.
It was a shit show, but
A
also
very public shit show.
But also, it happened.
In front of a sitting
that happens to
party.
me when I talk to you. Every time I have lights on me,
Oh yeah,
I just forget what I'm gonna say.
yeah.
And you're always like sitting there, and you're like, oh shit, and then you have the thought in your head, and then they ask the question, and you're like, I don't have an answer, and then you just talk.
Yeah.
And you hope that what's saying
Something's going to come.
That something's
going
gonna
to come out. I'm good at talking. Something will eventually come
Yeah.
out.
I think it's when I'm not in control. Like my podcast, I never have a problem talking because I feel like I'm in control. And I think when I'm not in control, that gives me anxiety.
Well, next time you're on a show, you should just answer it any way you want.
Or I'll just ask myself the question.
I'm going to make sure that I'm going to look at you when I ask you the question.
You'll be like,
and I'm going to say, Tammin, I'm going to ask you this question about your career and da. But feel free to answer it with any answer that you want that's off topic.
Why every time when we, like people like me, go on any show in Australia, do they always show? Someone messaged me in my DMs and go, hopefully they'll show your latest work, because they always show me at 14 going, no, Alf, I don't want to come to the I don't want to come to the
because
diner.
We are a nostalgia
I don't want to
machine.
come to the diner, Alf. I'm like, that was 25 years ago.
We are a nostalgia machine, and we will feed that fucking beast. Do you understand
I'm still
me?
on the burger
They
phone.
need us to. We want to remind them of how great you were back then, and that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it. And in fact, it's going to be a montage next time you come on. I'm like, Tammin said she wants only early home and away stuff.
We just know we're not going to show the video for this. We're just going to have a picture of you in the mullet, so that people can,
I'll get Lisa to send it to you.
people can
Probably Meg,
listen to
Meg
it the whole
probably
time.
knows where it is. Meg will know
because
what
it's
it is.
all about nostalgia.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming.
This has been the best. Thanks for having
We
me.
adore you. Thank you, David Campbell. See you next time.
See ya.